Today we are activating Timbered Peak, hopefully in addition to another peak or two if I have the time for the rest of the day. This is the highest I can get with a car up on Timbered Peak. And this is all part of the forest that burned during the Big Hollow fire. I can't remember how many years ago that was, but 3 or 4 years ago. That fire burned one of my favorite places in the world, which is the Suisun Creek drainage. But as far as fires go, this was as devastating as it looks up here, which you can tell. It got really hot, it burned hot. But as devastating as that looks, this was actually a fairly healthy fire from the looks of things, because when you go out and look over the valley, you can see that it was mostly a mosaic burn, so it did pretty well. I guess one advantage of it being burned, if I turn the camera around, is we can see exactly where the summit is and exactly where I need to go, because it looks like it's burned all the way up to the summit. I suppose if you were so inclined, there's plenty of dead trees to hang an antenna from, although I will bring a mast because that's just how I prefer to operate with my own mast, because that's how I do things. The road up to here is pretty rough. Just keep that in mind. But there's another peak nearby, and it's just kind of a pretty area to hang out. So anyway, I'm not going to force you to watch while I bushwhack. Okay, let's just do a little summit show and tell before I start the activation, because there's some really interesting fire stuff that happened up here. So, you know, this burned 4 or 5 years ago. I wish I remembered the exact number. I remember the smoke, and I remember really being sad about losing one of my favorite trails. And I didn't lose the trail, but yeah, it's already recovering. I mean, you can see these huckleberries coming back. You know, give this 5 years, it's just gonna be, this is gonna be so brushed in. Like, if you wanna activate this, activate it soon, because it's gonna become a very difficult bushwhack in short order. There's some wild berries growing there. Yeah, and if you look out over the valley, you can see what they mean when they talk about a mosaic burn. It burned in patches. So there's some patches like the top of this hill that are just completely crispy. And then there's other patches that just, it didn't touch. And so it leaves a mosaic across the landscape. Okay, well, it has been a while since I've actually used stakes on a summit. But there's actual dirt that I can get to. So I'm gonna try the tent stakes this time. Not only there's dirt I can get to, and it's not super sensitive yet, because it's already all burned. Using the carbon fiber pole for this. Carbon fiber mast. So I've got a link missing on I left my 17-meter link open. So you know what? I just use that as an opportunity. I'll start the activation on 17 meters, see what happens. Kilo Delta 7, Quebec Oscar Whiskey, CQ SOTA.
Kilo Bravo 9, Quebec Papa Lima.
I've got Kilo Bravo 9, Quebec Papa Lima, QSO.
QSO, you're about a 43 into Sheboygan, Wisconsin.
All right, copy the 43 into Sheboygan, Wisconsin, and it sounds like I've got you at about a 52 into Southwest Washington.
Well, thanks for the contact at 73.
Thanks at 73, have a great day. Kilo 7, Bravo Sierra Oscar, QSO.
QSO.
I have you as a very solid 5'9" up here onto Suisun, or up onto Timbered Peak.
Yeah, are you going to move to another band?
Yeah, I'm going to move over to 20 and then 40.
Okay, I was just looking at the SOTA site. I didn't see you anywhere listed on here.
Oh, this is Summits on the air.
Oh, I'll try that. Thanks.
Yeah, I will, in a couple days, I'll upload all these logs to Parks on the Air too, because I am in the Gifford-Pinchot National Forest, and you'll get credit for it. Thanks, it's 7-3.
73.
Kilo Alpha 7, Hotel Bravo Hotel, QSO.
QSO, I have you as Kilo Delta 7, Queen Oscar Whiskey.
Copy that, copy that.
Very good. Where are you at today?
I am on a peak in Southwest Washington doing a SOTA activation. So do you want the peak designation?
Yeah, the peak designation and where are you at in Southwest Washington? I'm somewhat familiar with that. I lived north of Vancouver for the first 13 years of my life.
All right, perfect. I am just about 15 miles north of Carson, Washington. Carson, that's out there in about 20 miles, 40 miles east of Vancouver in the Gorge. And the summit designation is Whiskey 7 Whiskey Stroke Lima Charlie dash 059. Copy?
QSL. Well, I appreciate that. And hope you got good weather and you got a good signal into Virginia. I'm in southeast Virginia. Victor Alpha, you're a good 5x7 here in Virginia.
All right, copy the 5x7 in Virginia, corner to corner on the continent here. And I have got you at a good 5.353 QSO. Well, I would say that was a successful activation. I have 28 entries in the logbook. After I QSY'd to 15 meters, I just kind of was curious, so I wanted to see what I could get on 15. So I also spotted on parks on the air just to get an idea of where 15 is at. And I got quite a few on 15 once I spotted on parks on the air. So there was some cross-country contacts, which is pretty cool to see those 15-meter openings and use them. I guess I could try 10 too, but I've got more than enough contacts now. I don't need to try to make more, but I do want to show off my setup a little bit, so because it changes a little every time. But this time I've added an umbrella to the setup, and any of those of you who have done this in the sunlight know exactly why. It's to keep, not to keep the sun off of me. I'm wearing a hat. It's to keep my equipment cool. And so I'm running again the FT-891, which works great. I don't think I've pointed this out before. That is a 6 ampere-hour battery, so it weighs half as much as my 12 ampere-hour battery. I was running 100 watts on this entire activation, and I've done it on like 5 or 6 activations now, and it does not harm the battery. I run the cell phone off of, I just use a I also have a little USB thing right here that it's a converter that runs off of turns 12 volts into 5 volts for the USB, DC to DC, so that I can keep the cell phone topped up since I use it for logging. I've started bringing a tuner on all of my activations. It also lets me get the intermediate bands without having to change links if I'm feeling lazy. Because, once I've also added a sit pad, and you know what? Once I get onto the sit pad, I don't want to get back up. So the tuner kind of lets me do that. I mean, supposedly tuners are inefficient, but it's just an impedance matching device. If you needed any convincing, I hit New Zealand on 17 meters the other day with the tuner into the end-fed half wave. So I would say it worked pretty well. For whatever reason, I've had better luck with the end-fed half wave and the tuner than I have with the random wire, the end-fed random wire in a tuner. So here's the antenna. It goes to, again, the fiberglass mast, which I've had great, not fiberglass, this is the carbon fiber mast, which I've had great luck with. Nice open area on the summit here. Will not remain this way. There's a lot of young growth, but anyway, it goes over to here. It's dirt up here, or it's soil of a sort, so I was able to use tent stakes, which I haven't been able to do in a while. Usually I end up using bags of rocks or having to tie off to trees. And I was able to tie off to a tree over here on the other side, which I didn't point out, but you probably already saw. So a nice little setup right here with an umbrella that came from my classroom because some kid left it there for like months and months, and so I just finally grabbed it. So if that's your umbrella, stop by my classroom next year and you can get it back. Gorgeous view out here. This was a nice place to activate. I think it worked out pretty well. I managed to make 2 VHF contacts into Portland, so I wouldn't count on VHF working up here. The cell phone service was pretty decent. There was just a few minutes there where it switched to SOS only, but otherwise it's 5G with a couple of bars, so it comes and it goes, but for the most part it's there. And there's another peak nearby that I'm probably going to try to go activate today. It was only 250 vertical feet of climbing, but it was 250 vertical feet of steep climbing to get up here, because you'll have to come up this steep slope that's all burned. It would have been really brushy without all that, without the fire though. So overall, activation, total success, lots of fun. Thanks again to all the chasers, 28 of you who made this activation work out. So thanks, and 7-3, get out there and go play with your radio.